Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today we're going to be playing with Scotty's Bug Zenith list. So this deck is built kind of around two things. It's built around the general utility of Green Sun's Zenith, as well as the Chain of Smog and Witherbloom Apprentice combo. If you're not familiar with how this one works, this card has Magecraft. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you drain one. And you can target yourself with a Chain of Smog and continuously copy it, even if you don't have any cards left in hand, to infinitely drain out your opponent. And these Green Suns don't just turn into Witherbloom Apprentices, they can also turn into powerful other threats, like Leovold or Uro, or they can be mana ramp in the form of Dryad Arbor. The rest of the shell is a generic interactive bug deck. You can see things like Spell Pierce, Thought Seize, and Fatal Push sort of forming the core of your interaction in addition to just the normal Force of Will. And essentially, we're looking to play sort of a bug rock game for the most part until we assemble the two cards that let us kill our opponent. Although, if I'm being honest, there's going to be a good number of games where we're just going to stick an Uro and that will carry the game on its own. The sideboard's pretty straightforward and is mostly stuff that you would expect to see from a bug deck, Endurance being one of the newer additions to these sorts of decks. This card is just really powerful, really flexible, being great against Delver while also being great against combo decks like Reanimator or even Doomsday sometimes. I'm excited to play this one. I feel a little weird about some of the choices. I'm going to go into that now, and I'll see if I feel differently after starting the league. I don't know how good I actually feel like Spell Pierce is. Spell Pierce doesn't answer a lot of the things that are on the forefront of my mind right now in the format, such as Urza Saga or Murktide Regent or Ragavan or Dragon Rage Channeler. So I don't know if I want my flex slots to be things like Spell Pierce. I sort of want to make sure that I'm winning game one versus Delver most of the time. And while Spell Pierce does have a very good target in that matchup of, say, Expressive Iteration, I kind of feel like I want my flex slots to be doing other things. The other thing I'm a little worried about is that we don't have enough Green Sun targets for game one. Like, I don't have a huge range of versatility in the same way that something like a Maverick deck might. So I wonder if these two Spell Pierces should be just like other creatures. Like, should we have a Collector Oof and an Endurance in the main deck, for example, and then these Spell Pierces should be two other creatures two other anti-combo cards in the sideboard? That's kind of what's on my mind right now, just kind of looking at the deck list. But yeah, let's just kind of jump into things. I'm eager to battle. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for Legacy, Modern, and Vintage content 5-ish days a week. And if you're a regular, throw me a like before we get started. It's the easiest way to support my content. If you like this one and you end up wanting to try it out, this deck list, as well as my donation information, is available in the video description. Let's fight. Okay, I'm going to be keeping kind of a medium opening hand here. I have Spell Pierce for if my opponent is playing a combo deck, and I have Baleful Strix plus Fatal Push for if my opponent is playing a fair deck. Okay. So we are potentially playing against Artifact combo deck here. It is looking like that is the case. Yep. So I can kill this on my turn. Oh, nope. Sure can't. How's my new hand? Alright, this Force of Will is a wee bit late. Yeah. I think the damage is probably going to be done on turn 1 here. Unless I just naturally draw my combo, I don't think I'm going to beat the just raw amount power my opponent is going to make. I am not going to counter this. Yep. I think I want to be able to stop a Karn or equivalent that comes down next turn. Fuck. What about this one? Does this one get countered? This one probably has to get countered. This sucks. Opponent's hand was obviously insane. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 power this turn. I'm probably realistically on a 3-turn clock. I'll probably get hit for like 5, then 8, then lethal. Like somewhere around there, because my opponent has a couple of baubles they'll likely cash in. I think that means I just have to like play out a land, brainstorm this turn, hit both Chain of Smog and Witherbloom Apprentice. And I think if I miss, I'm dead. My opponent joked, that's not Plains, Thalia. Alright, so baubles are going to get cracked. And my opponent can safely crack both of them because of these Thopters, they still very clearly have Metalcraft. Alright, so there's your draw 2. Okay. Yep. Emery is fine. It's terrifying, but it's happening. Retrofitter Foundry in the graveyard. Yeah, I think this is Brainstorm. Hope it works. Okay. That's a little more damage this turn. That means I take 6 this turn instead. For sure. I'm taking 6 and then 9. That's 15, 16, 17, counting my fetch lands. Assuming I have to fetch twice. Yeah, you can look at a random card in my hand before I brainstorm. Now I'll fetch. And let's brainstorm. Maybe 1 mana short of comboing off. I need to play Witherbloom next turn so that I can have lethal the following turn. Do I still have an out? I do still have an out. I can cast a Green Sun for a Dryad Arbor this turn. And then hit an actual Witherbloom Apprentice next turn. So if I do that, I'll have 4 mana. Okay. I can brainstorm first. And then cast the Green Sun. Do I want to shuffle? Just quick math check again. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. I'm not in lethal range or anything. Yeah, I'll shuffle first, just maximize my chances here. This just has to get something green. Be a trop. I will cast this Brainstorm. I guess I'll just send back 2 lands. And then we're gonna go get that Dryad Arbor. Okay. This is such a Yu-Gi-Oh! Heart of the Cards moment. It would be dope as fuck to win this. It's honestly impressive that I still have lines to potentially win after this happening. Yep. That's fine. I'm more scared of something like an Echo that causes me to lose my hand. Don't do it. I have a family. I have a family! Shit. Oh my god, I have both pieces in hand, but not a land. I have both pieces in hand, but not a land. I just need to top deck a land, and I fucking have this. Holy shit. Yeah, that's fine. I will take all that. I need a land. I need a land. I need a land. Come on. I want this so bad. I want this so fucking bad right now. I guess they could Echo again still, theoretically. Yeah. Alright, well, this is an emotional roller coaster that I was not prepared for coming into this league. Oh, this hand is shit. Echo again. I need you to Echo again, and I can't stress this enough. Also, I believe this is the dictionary definition of going the fuck off. Yeah. I'm just gonna let all this stuff happen because I am legit hoping that my opponent echoes again. Yeah. They've seen my forest. Seen my underground sea. Please have Echo. Please have Echo. There's 2 in exile now, so the chances of that happening are at least somewhat low. Oh no, I think they're stopping. I do not believe that I have any outs. I'm gonna ponder to just make sure I'm not wrong, but I can't think of any outs I have. I need to assemble 2 cards to win here, and I have neither of them. Yeah, that's one of them, but that doesn't do it. I could cast one of them, then Fatal Push, go to 4. Yeah, alright. GG's. Second Echo was rough. Okay, this Collector Oof is going to be one of my primary win conditions. I'm pretty happy about having that. Plague Engineers for Thopters are fine. I have a lot of cards that are going to be fine. Like Strix, Endurance, Assassin's Trophy, Library, Force are all things that I would consider playing. I think Spell Pierce is going to get outclassed pretty quickly. I think Scavenging Ooze is probably unnecessary. I think my Fatal Pushes are of medium quality. I'm going to bring this in and this in. I think I want Library to help me dig and select draws. I'm not sure about these. Am I willing to go down more on Fatal Push? I want some to, like, sometimes answer, like an Emery or something like that, but when my opponent starts going wide, Fatal Push looks pretty bad, and it's also just, like, bad value versus something like Urza. Maybe I can go down to 1 Uro. This is fine. Well, as long as I find a land, I have the best card in the matchup in hand. The awkward thing here is that if I ponder on turn 1, trying to find that land, and I don't find land plus blue card, I can't actually force on my opponent's turn 1, which is something I really want to do. But I just don't think I can throw this back. So we ponder. Oh, everything is great. Alright. So I pick up the blue card to pitch to Force a Will on turn 1 if I need to, and then I have turn 2 Collect Roof. Alright, good stuff. Alright, we'll pick up a Tropical Island here, and go oof. I also just have Force a Will to back it up, which is dope. Nice. Might end up playing a very weird beatdown game with a bunch of 2/2s. Yeah, we're not letting that happen. Well, no, I don't have the other land guaranteed. Let's just stop that. All right. I think I'll just cantrip here. Land drop would be cool. It doesn't matter too much if we don't hit it, though. All right, opponent's down to 16. I have a great hate card in hand and some flexible options in hand. That's something I didn't want to see. That is probably, in fact, the thing I didn't want to see. That's number 2. Yeah. Okay. Now those activated abilities can't be activated, which is the good news. I can also potentially Fatal Push this sometime soon. Or just Plague Engineer, and I don't care too much about it. I'm going to go ahead and loop this into play. Do these fly? Yeah, they do fly. So Baleful Strix is not getting in there. Collect Roof is not getting in there. We are representing a kill as soon as next turn if we're lucky with the top deck. Oh, it's like that. Sure is. Okay, I mean, that's happening. It very little say in what's going on over there right now. Oh god. A whole lot of constructs. So theoretically, I can get rid of 1 with Strix, 1 with Plague Engineer, 1 with Fatal Push, and that covers the first 3. That's not actually the worst. I'm unsure how my opponent is going to value attacking here. Yeah. Going to value keeping back blockers and stabilizing their own health. I respect that. Library is really good. But I think I kind of have to do this right now. This just saves me so much life in the short term. Goodbye, Thopters. So in addition to just the Thopter attacks, this also like stops the Urza Saga construct tokens from just being absolutely massive. All right. This is only a big 4/4 instead of like a, 7/7, 8/8, something like that. Okay, Retrofitter Foundry is just an artifact right now. My boy Collector Roof has my back. So next turn as of right now, I'm playing Sylvan Library, and then I'll have a Fatal Push for a Construct token. That is also an artifact. I like it much better when my opponent's cards don't have text. That one is a little scary. I would like to remove that. Okay, opponent tapped their island, so they don't actually have blue mana right now. That is potentially a problem, though. I'll trade Baleful Strix for that. That's totally fine. All right. Top deck chain. Ponder. Ponder could find me a fetch land. That would be dope. Or, just the combo. There is also a world where the combination of Ancient Tomb plus just a handful of spells kills my opponent. Yeah, I think I will take a fetch land here. So let's go land, fetch, destroy Emery, drain my opponent again, and then play a Sylvan Library to let me dig deeper for Chain. My attacks still aren't good because my opponent can make an Urza Saga construct token. This is a big critter. There is going to be a question like whether or not I just trade off Plague Engineer for the construct token this turn. Another question for my opponent is do they activate that Ancient Tomb knowing that I have the ability to drain them in play? They do. Shadow Spear, also an artifact. I think I need to save the 8 here. I will take less than 8 damage to the Thopters over time, in all likelihood. Alright, goodbye. Yeah, that's another island. Alright, Sylvan Library, do your thing. That's Chain of Smog. GG's. Unless it's like Force of Will blue card. I'm gonna put this Green Sun on top of Library. I'm gonna pay life for this Abrupt Decay. I'm going to Abrupt Decay this token. If for some reason this plan doesn't work, I would like to not die to that token. Alright, so I discard, I copy, same targets. Alright, they're going to try to draw a card to hit a counterspell now. They did not. Okay, good stuff. Do I want to adjust anything here? I don't think so. The general plan seems fine. I could play 1 Endurance, so that I could get something that I could Green Sun for that could block, whatchamacallits, like Thopters. I could also play Force of Negation on the draw. I do think my Thoughtseize has become much worse on the draw, actually. Get some Force of Negations in there in that spot, and then... Yeah, do I just want to play some Endurances? I don't, like, super want to do that. Oh, maybe I want more Fatal Push on the draw. I can just, like, fetch and kill a 3-drop that they play on turn 1. Okay, so this hand has Force of Negation for one of my opponent's things on turn 1. And it has a Witherbloom that I can play. I don't have a way to dig to Chain of Smog, but this hand is probably good enough to just keep. I'm not just going to, like, naturally assemble everything that I need every game. Yup. Emery does not get Force of Negation, unfortunately. Oh shit, Emery found Echo. Actually, my opponent echoing would be pretty good for me because I'd Force of Negation and their hand would be gone. Hot damn. Actually, this is slightly more awkward than I thought. Because I can't get all 3 of my colors with this, because in theory I want Tropical Island. Instead I'm going to have to get Bayou here and not give myself access to blue. That is what it is, but I need to kill this right now. Alright. Bayou. Fatal Push, and here's to hoping that this really delays my opponent's hand. They get a couple of redraws here. Alright, so they have seen my Snow-Covered Swamp, and whatever the top card of my library is. Take your redraws. Okay. That card's obviously scary. You can have that. I'm more scared of other things that can happen. Same. Yep. Oh, these construct tokens are going to be big. Here's to hoping I can Baleful Strix. Or that I draw Chain of Smog and I won't have to. Alright. Let's get my boy in play. Yeah. There is also a world where my opponent doesn't have more land, and magically they don't produce anything with their Urza Saga. That would be cool for me. Oh, shit. I mean, I'm still just going to be in the territory where I top deck a Chain of Smog and win. I don't have anything at 1. Let me just confirm that. I don't have anything at 1. So I will cast this first one. Oh, I can just cast it for this. So this is worth some damage. I don't think I want to bluff attack, like bluffing that I have Fatal Push for this construct, because I think my opponent would call me on it. Alright, you can make your thing. So if my opponent doesn't have anything else going on, or if I don't find something better to do, I have Green Sun for Collector Oof available. I really need some death touchy stuff, though, to take these constructs out of play. My deck seems a little weak to Urza Saga, because I don't have, like, Wastelands or anything. I wonder if I'm supposed to have, like, Press Down as an option, or if I need, like, a Force of Vigor or something in the sideboard. Unsure. That's definitely something that I'm going to be thinking about. Yeah, I'll take this hit. Alright. No blue mana yet. Can't trip with Baleful Strix. I can Collector Oof if I want. I kind of think I need to take out these construct tokens. But it sort of feels like I need to top deck Chain of Smog next turn, or I'm going to lose. Like, I can Assassin's Trophy a construct, and then I'll only take maybe like 7-ish damage, but I think I'm probably dead the following turn. Maybe that just means I need to Assassin's Trophy a construct and call that good. Yeah. I could attack in with Witherbloom Apprentice. If my opponent's blocks with the construct, then I Assassin's Trophy it. If they don't block, then I get 2 free damage. And yeah, let's try that. Let's swing in. This is the attack that prompts the question, what the fuck does he have? Why is he doing this? I can tell this is a trap, but I'm not quite sure how. Alright, they are going for the block. Alright, tried to sneak the 2 free damage, did not succeed. We'll send this away. And now my opponent gets a land that they can use to make something with Retrofitter Foundry. I am keeping Dryad Arbor back here because I think that there's a world where I might have to chump block this turn. That becomes harder because of this. But weird things happen sometimes. Yep. I am basically on Chain of Smog or bust. I might be able to make it one more turn. Yep. If my opponent doesn't equip Shadow Spear this turn, I probably have to just chump block with Dryad Arbor this turn. Okay, so they are going for LED. There's going to be this really fun question of, do I actually counter Echo? I think there's a world where opponent was supposed to equip this. Now I can block 8 damage, potentially live another turn. Okay, they are not going to go for the Echo. Okay. I can likely stay alive. That's the good news. I think it is most important to play this Baleful Strix, because it can kill a construct, and it also cantrips. Grab a Trop. Alright, Baleful Strix occurs, getting me another land. I guess there's a world where we could make it to Uro. That will get forced. I just don't have too many outs if this thing goes away. I guess I force pitching Force of Negation. Let's do that. Because a Leovold might buy me another turn in a pinch. I'm going to take 9 from this Trampoline sucker here. A chump block on the other one, taking some amount of damage. Alright. We'll see if my opponent can kill me. It is very possible. It may involve them casting the Echo, though, and things could get weird if they do that. Okay. Yep. Oh, this is tight right now. Yet they're going for the Echo. Alright. Okay. I cannot cast this Brainstorm. So whatever happens, happens. If it makes it back to my turn and I am not dead, I win. Do you have another mana source to equip a Shadow Spear? That's question 1. You do. I think I am now dead. Ooh, wait. I am somewhat surprised that is being cast. Well, I guess if they attack with 2 15/15s, it doesn't matter, right? There's a world where they... Oh, shit. Okay, well. Never mind. Yeah, so I'm dead to the Shadow Spear being equipped. Or to that. Alright. GG's. Just so close to taking this one down in so many different ways. Okay. Do I keep this hand? This hand has no real plan, but it's pretty darn good against a combo deck with the ability to, like, have a Thoughtseize plus Force of Will backup. I don't have anything that proactively wins the game, but hopefully if I prolong things for long enough, I'll find a way to get there. The next question is, do I want 3 basics? Unsure. I think I'm going to start out on basics and see if I regret it later. It makes my Brainstorm worse if I do this, but the upside is that I get to play around Wasteland. Oh, shit. So we're playing against Curses. I think I'm going to take my opponent's win con here and just deal with the other shit by waiting. Chalice on 1 followed by Chalice on 2 is a little rough, but if they do that, I can counter the Chalice on 2. I know they don't have black mana yet, but that deck doesn't play a ton of win cons. We'll let the Chalice on 1 go. Okay. I'll make my land drop, and my opponent can go. If they attempt Chalice on 2, I force this, pitching Brainstorm. Burnosphere is fine. It's annoying, but I'm much more scared of Chalice on 2. That stops my win cons easier. Results. So now that I know my opponent isn't going to be playing anything too spooky, I'll just pick up the Triome. Do I want to continue to thin lines from my deck? Probably. My life total's not super relevant. I will fetch now, though, to play around Opposition Agent. I guess theoretically I could need blue at some point. I have black. Let's grab a Trop. Well, need to counter that. Pitch the Brainstorm. Alright, Spell Pierce not looking great, but it is Force of Will fodder for the Chalice on 2 that I assume is incoming. Yep. Alright, so we've played the awkward Force of Will game with each other, and now my opponent has Urza Saga, which is a disaster. Okay, what do I want? Probably just pick up Uro here. Yeah, I think I'll just take Uro. I can't flash it back immediately because I have one swamp. Ouch, okay. So let's fetch. I have green, blue. Won't matter what I get too much. Let's just pick up an Underground Sea. Now my opponent tapping the Ancient Tomb to make these constructs is actually going to be a bit of a liability. Oh, Decay is also quite nice. Let's just get Uro into play now, though. Alright, green, blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. Nope. I've got 2 dead cards, but I have an Abrupt Decay and an Uro that's online. Not too worried about this. We also might get my opponent next turn with a double block situation. Alright. So I assume this will be something like a Retrofitter Foundry. Yep. Sure. Yeah, so I can attack if my opponent double blocks. I just Abrupt Decay one of them. Sick. Get in there, Uro. Nope. Oh, actually, can I make this even better? No. I would need more mana to get rid of Chalice and then do Fatal Pushes. That's fine, though. This is obviously quite good still. Alright. We take out the other one in combat. I have 4 dead cards in hand, but I have an Uro, and my opponent is at 8. Opponent is acting like a clown in chat. Alright. Player blocked. Now what? So I think I like Assassin's... Oh wait, I'm on the wrong screen. I think I like Assassin's Trophy. Don't mind Force of Negation. I don't mind these. I don't know that I want to go to this stuff. Let's see if we can board in about 4 cards. I think I want to go down the Spell Pierces on the draw. Because there's a good portion of the time where like a Chalice is just going to happen and there's not much I can do about it. Scavenging Ooze is not really great against a Leyline deck. There's not going to be a ton of targets. I can go down a Leovold pretty safely. From there, I'm not 100% sure what I want to do for the last slot. I could just like not bring in this other Baleful Strix, but it like cantrips and trades with Urza Saga stuff. I could also just go down a Fatal Push. I think that would be fine as well. This hand is unexciting, but keepable. Yep, Leyline is fine. Land go. I do have to keep in mind Dark Ritual into Opposition Agent is something that can occur. I have a Force of Will if I have to do that. Nope, they don't have that, and they telegraphed that they don't have that by F6ing, which I do appreciate. Alright. Sure. What do I want to do this turn? Library Pass, no fetch. No attack. Play around Opposition Agent, make my opponent waste their mana. Or I get to fetch around it. And Fatal Push it. Yeah, I think I like that. I think that's better than like going for a Witherbloom Apprentice this turn. Well, I don't get to play around that at all. I do have to sacrifice this, I can't counter that. I can, however, fetch around Opposition Agent now. This makes me slightly worse at Fatal Pushing something like an Opposition Agent that would be played out. Yeah, that's annoying enough that I'm just going to stop that. Goodbye. Yeah, I'll use Sylvan Library's ability. These cards are great. I'm gonna keep all of these. I'll go down to 11. The question is, like, what now? Do I want to try to, like, get rid of my opponent's City of Traders with Assassin's Trophy? I don't think so. I think I'm just going to go ahead and get a Witherbloom Apprentice in play. If my opponent uses their turn for a Sudden Edict, cool. I don't want to cast this Ponder. I want to keep that in hand for Force of Will. Alright, here we go. Green Sun for 2. Pick up Witherbloom. Pass the turn. Okay, that's a Chain of Smog, which is great. Another Chain of Smog, also a Force of Negation. So we'll just put Chain of Smog on top, and I think I'll not do anything else. I think I'll just put both of those on top. So I think I'm going to attack and try to get 2 damage in. I have Force of Will for an opposition agent, if that's what my opponent has. Okay, now do I go for it? I could drain 1 first. Just guarantee that damage. I don't think I want to adjust the top cards of my library. So, let's try it. I also could just pass the turn. Passing the turn is totally reasonable. Yeah, maybe I'll just pass the turn. How do I want to deal with that? Flash, do I even deal with it? Yeah, I don't even think I deal with that right now. I'll take 3 here. Now, I think I'm just going to convert this land into a swamp. Drain my opponent. See if I can make them use their mana. Alright. We'll put some stuff back on top of library. Alright, so again, let's see if I can get the 2 damage in. Alright, opponent's down to 15. I think I'm going to go ahead and go for it here. Junk these. Yes, I want to copy this. Name targets. Junk these. So, oh. Yep, okay. They don't have it. Cool. GG's. Okay, they do have it, but they let me get 1 more trigger than I should have. So I get 1 extra damage and a nice Mind Rot out of this. Alright, so my opponent had a bunch of expensive stuff in hand. Okay, that's fine. I'm not too worried about that. My hand is kind of pooped, though. I don't think I want to take this last card out of my opponent's hand. I have 1 Witherbloom Apprentice remaining in deck. I can't search for it currently. I think I'm just going to hold Force of Negation in hand. Alright, so I'm going to go down to 5 here. Great. I get to Baleful Strix. Draws me 1 card deeper, and this can trade off with Opposition Agent. Although I'm guessing my opponent won't use it. Or won't attack with it, rather. Okay. That's not actually very spooky, because Curse of Death's Hold and Cruel Reality are both in Graveyard. So I'm going to keep this Brainstorm available for my opponent's turn. My opponent casts something that I have to get rid of. Cool. Otherwise, this is fine. And we may see Overwhelming Splendor here. Yep. Don't know if I can beat that from this position. Yeah, I guess I'll take 3 here. I'm not sure how I get out of this. I lose my ability to Death Touch things away. Yeah, none of that is really going to do anything. Maybe there's some weird Brazen Borrower based line. I don't think so. Yep. All right. I'll go ahead and concede here. So it's possible I could have won that game if I just tried to play differently. I don't think the call is unreasonable. Do I want Spell Pierce on the play? Sure. Could go down Leovold here pretty easily, I think. I'm unsure of the last card. Fatal Push is so medium versus Opposition Agent because of, like, the timing restrictions of the fetching and whatnot. I'm going to go down 1 of those when I'm on the play. Just be more concerned with answering the things like the Chalices and Trinispheres. This is fine. So we're going to fetch probably an Underground Sea here, I guess. And Thoughtseize is my opponent. Try to pick apart their hand. Quite a good hand. I think I'm just going to leave them with 1 threat that I can counter. I'll take Opposition Agent. Yeah, do your Dark Ritual thing. Guess I'm countering that. Fetch the Brainstorm. The Uro is pretty good later. So my opponent will play Urza Saga this turn. Oh, nope. Okay. I don't need to walk into this. If you just topped an Opposition Agent, I can take it here or force you to cast it. Alright. That's fine. I take your Curse, leaving you with 2 lands. I play this. I attack in. Probably attack in. Yeah, I'll attack in. I need to fetch to get Uro online. We can trade these. Sure. That's kind of a pain in the butt. That is a fantastic top deck. Means that I'm not going to be able to Uro successfully. Okay, they're just grabbing a land. Sure. We'll take that 3. Do this Uro thing. And we're just looking to hit a chain and kill my opponent. Now I attack Karn. So that Karn cannot ultimate. Or sorry, so that Karn cannot minus and get Tormod's Crypt and take Uro out of my graveyard. And I'm going to take 3 more from this. Okay, so I need to put 1 more card into the graveyard because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 plus Uro. I'll play Strix. Probably don't cast this, probably hold that. This can be a 2-2 when my opponent makes it, so I probably don't want to attack with it. I'll just chill. You've got a construct. Now you'll make a second construct. Oh no, they're floating mana. Sure. So 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in graveyard. I can just cast the Brainstorm here as my 5th card in graveyard. And then let that resolve. I think I like that well enough. Yield to that. So I want the Ponder in hand. And I probably don't want the Thoughtseize. But Forest on top. Yep, okay. So your Leyline can resolve, that's fine. Sure. You can make that into a 1/1 that I can kill with my spells. I'm good with that. Fine with using Death Touch on this construct? I think so. Trade. So I'm going to see if I can find Chain of Smog, and if I can't find Chain of Smog, I'll just cast Uro. Yeah, we'll just shuffle that. Fatal Push. Do I want to Fatal Push Retrofitter Foundry more than I want to play Uro? I don't think so. Interesting, though. Alright, so here comes Uro. Will not move that. And I don't think I want to make an attack. I still want to leave myself in the position where if I top deck a Chain of Smog, I just win. Yeah, you can get an artifact. Do you want to get like an Ensnaring Bridge? Yeah, that's fine. That also just keeps me alive, which I'm good with. Alright, do I want to attack and try to get rid of this Karn right now? Yeah, probably. And then I can just draw like an Abrupt Decay or something to get rid of the Ensnaring Bridge and then go that route. Get in there. Okay, they're letting it go to keep Opposition Agent around. That's fine with me. I have Hardcast Force of Will available. Okay, sure. Nope. Absolutely not. I also get to just drain my opponent there. There's a huge upside play that I get to do, meaning that the Ensnaring Bridge just doesn't beat me. So a cool thing I can do is that at any point I can choose to just give myself Revolt and like hold priority kill Opposition Agent. Karn resolves. Minus put a card into your hand, please. Plus on your Ensnaring Bridge, please. Nice. This is potentially very, very, very bad for my opponent to do, by the way. Just allowing this Witherbloom Apprentice to attack. Yep. That mistake probably loses on this match. Alright, so what I do is hold priority. Oh wait, hold on. Does Revolt... How does Revolt read? Revolt is leaves play, right? I need to check that. I don't have time to check that. I have 5 minutes on clock. Let's just see if I'm right. I believe it's leaves play. Yep. I am correct. So that drains my opponent. That kills Opposition Agent. Now I'd actually get to fetch. Don't think it matters what I get. So we'll grab a dual land. Now my opponent has 2 things in play. This allows me to attack the Karn. Karn goes down to 1. I am just going to fetch again. It would make a future Brainstorm slightly worse, but I would rather just play around the Opposition Agent. Well, actually, maybe that's not true. Maybe like keeping Fatal Push around is better playing around Opposition Agent. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can lose a land. No big deal. This is just using Uro as an awkward cantrip. I'll use Brainstorm as an awkward cantrip later, and then hopefully Chain of Smog kill my opponent. Again, not super worried about this Karn right now. For sure. Yep. That, on the other hand, is very worrying. I'll Brainstorm in response to that. we're looking for the Chain of Smog to round things out. Nope. Okay. Alright, so that's happening. I might be able to just drain my opponent out with double Witherbloom Apprentice, though. So in case I get Overwhelming Splendored here, I should cast this Brainstorm and get my drains in now. Okay, there's the Chain of Smog for if things actually go my way. But I think Overwhelming Splendor happens and turns these into 1/1s, which have an easier time attacking under Ensnaring Bridge, by the way. Oh. Okay, do you have a land? Oh, you have Helm. Sure. That's fine. GG's. I will sacrifice my Uro. And then I will lose to drawing the card. Womp womp. We put up a hell of a fight. I think my opponent made a bunch of missteps that I was able to capitalize on, but I just couldn't find the chain to finish out. Ooh, I don't know if I like this hand. So this Prismatic Vista has to get Basic Island, and then I have Ponder and Brainstorm to find lands. Donation deck? Always. Like, it... I'm gonna mulligan. Alright, I'll mulligan again. Oh my god. What the fuck? Yikes. I think the average 4 is better than this. The average 4 was better than that. Brainstorm goes back, 1 Ponder goes back. Then I think I bin the Thoughtseize. And just hope that, like, Baleful Strix plus Ponder redraw can get me to some combo pieces. Drop here. Ponder. Hello! Some combo pieces. How are you? Honestly, I probably keep these cards on top of my library and draw Green Sun here. And just hide them from discard. So this is why I mulliganed. This is what I wanted. Okay. That means blue deck. I mean, that means interaction can happen. Let's see if we can get a feel for what flavor of blue deck. If it's a blue deck that does not have counter spells, that would be ideal here. Whatever this is going to have counter spells or other relevant interaction. That is a shuffle. Am I just going to YOLO go for it? Yeah. Yeah, I am. There's a world where my opponent, like, doesn't have an answer immediately or doesn't respect the combo and I just get there. If I am playing against a control deck and I am down, 4 cards? 3 from mulligans plus 1. Fuck. From them being on the draw, I am probably not winning this game anyway. So I think it's correct to just jam. So we're probably playing against, like, some blue-white-red, like, mush pile. You know, Murktide Regents, Dragon Rage Channelers, stuff of that nature. Alright, I do get to make my land drop. This is just going to become another Apprentice next turn. And then I'll try Chain of Smog later. The unfortunate thing is my opponent's deck probably has about 8 1-mana removal spells. Because they can have some combination of Bolt, Plows, and Prismatic Endings. Not the best for me. And I can try to play around Prismatic Ending, but if I do so, it makes it harder for me to play around Daze. Sure. Alright, Urza Saga is in that pile too. Ooh, another play. Just purely fetching, sure. I'm gonna take my 1 point of damage. There's a world where I leave it back to play around Dashed Ragavan. But I don't think I can be quite that conservative when I'm down so many cards. If we hit another Daze. Yep, we do. Again, I don't think I'm in the position to play around it. My opponent hasn't even gotten to things like Murktide Regent and Expressive Iteration yet. When they do, I'm in trouble. Okay, this is obviously bad. Yeah, I've got a handful of a lot of do nothing currently. It's okay. Like, I can point the Fatal Push at an Urza Saga Construct token. The second one is a problem. Alright. Okay, the second one is no longer a problem. There is still Retrofitter Foundry as this game goes long, though, so that's a thing. So my opponent might have something like a piece of Graveyard Hate in the main deck as an Urza Saga target. Sometimes these decks only run Retrofitter Foundry in the main deck, though. So they might not get another thing out of the Urza Saga. Other than the construct, of course. Alright. So, are these going to become 4/4s? Yes. So this means it's harder for me to make an Uro. I will just trade Baleful Strix for a Construct and then Fatal Push the other one if I am given the opportunity. Oh, there's more. Oh, Swords of Plowshares then. Blow up the Construct that can attack this turn. Actually, I probably should have Spell Pierced first. Spell Piercing first plays around double days. Ooze. This? They somehow have no creatures in graveyard. Okay. That is what it is. Let's try to kill this. And then just continuously slam cards into days. Again, I don't think time is on my side here. Yep, alright. They just have them all. I'll hit in for one. The good news is that they can't have the 4th days, right? Ah, shit, here's Murktide. The good news is my Baleful Strix is still in play. Alright, I mean, I guess I cast this. Not stoked about it, but there's some worlds where I take out something like a Prismatic Ending or an Expressive Iteration that's super meaningful. Fuck me, okay. Oh god, I don't think I beat this. Yeah, I think I feel confident conceding here. Alright, I want Strix, Trophy, Endurance for sure. I think my life total's under enough pressure where I don't necessarily want Library. Don't think I want Pierces. A lot of the rest of this stuff is fine. I think I'm going to go down Brazen Borrower and 1 Force of Will. Okay, what are we looking at? This hand's fine. This hand has a bunch of mana and an Abrupt Decay. I'm good with starting on that. So the next question is, like, do I want to lead on basic lands? Fetching basic island on 1 means I can't really decay on 2, so I think I'm not going to do that. This stuff is all fine. I don't think I want to shuffle this. I like the Green Sun now because that represents having potentially both sides of my combo. It's very weird that they have had that singleton both times. Alright. I am going to decay this, not because I think this is an immediate threat. I am decaying this because I can potentially cast most of the rest of my spells for the rest of this match around a daze. And if I want to use my mana this turn, I either need to Green Sun for Dryad Arbor or Abrupt Decay. And, like, those are the things I can play without daze being super impactful. Ponder does not shuffle. Yeah, there's that thing again. Again, I don't really have great answers to Urza Saga. That, I feel like, is a big weakness of the way this deck is built. Oh, wow, you have something else. Oh, just straight up Soul Guide Lantern. Did I show them Uro? I don't think I showed them Uro. Wonder why that's still in. Okay, that's a Witherbloom Apprentice. Do I just want to play that out? No, I think I'm going to sandbag things a little bit here. Cast a Scavenging Ooze. If it gets countered, I fetch for the Triome, and if it doesn't get countered, I fetch for probably Trop. I'll probably Bayou. And then just eat a card out of their graveyard and just, like, start working on it for Murktide reasons. And if I can end up with, like, multiple Witherbloom Apprentices in play or something like that, and then try to Chain of Smog off, that would be cool. Okay. So I think I'm going to go ahead and cast this. I need to tap maybe like this. Black, green. And then if this gets countered, I can eat with Scavenging Ooze, and then it'll be a 3/3 that can safely attack. Am I willing to go all in? Maybe. Let's bash in with Scavenging Ooze, and we'll see if my opponent's willing to tap both of their lands. Okay, there's the fetch. Okay, they are. That's fine. I'll fetch. I'll, I guess, pick up with like a Trop here. Eat 2 cards out of their graveyard. And now I'm totally fine trading these things. Then next turn, assuming they use their mana to make an Urza Saga construct, I will Chain of Smog combo around Daze and like Spell Pierce. Alright. So I've seen Soul Guide Lantern and Retrofitter Foundry already, so they might fail to find here. Yep. Cool, cool. Alright. See if I lose this critter immediately. Yeah, I think I'm in the position where I just kind of play a little conservatively. So, try to get 2 of these in play. I'm going to cast this for 2 and just continue to play around Daze to the best of my ability. 8 days. I will pay for 8 days. A second days. I will not pay for that one. Glad I didn't go for the combo itself. We'll just chill. And attempt Chain of Smog next turn. Again, I would love if my opponent tapped their mana down, though. Like, I'm trying to do this in a safe way. You know, one of the cards in hand is still in the other land from the second days. Game is going to end up being very complicated. Sure. All right, maybe we're chilling. Maybe this game is slower than I think it's going to be. We go black-blue. Like, play the Strix. You're gonna, like, blast it? Be cool. We're gonna blast it. Okay. I know they have one land in hand, and they have 2 unknown cards. They have used 2 dazes already. It would be extremely unlikely that they have double daze. I think this is a fine moment to just call. Alright. Is it force blue card? And I am just going to discard this rather than casting it. Yes. Same targets. Recording. Alright. The remaining 2 cards were force blue card, which is obviously very unfortunate for me. And probably will result in my, not immediate death, but my death very soon. I feel like this league so far has just been, like, close but no cigar in so many aspects. I don't think this league is bad, but I also think we might end up 0-4 dropping, because I think I'm losing this one. My opponent has so many different removal spells they can find here, and then, like, I just have nothing. Yeah, alright. So, crazy top decks aside, I think this one is over, because my opponent can just, like, keep building the size of this construct. Or not. I'm unsure whether Ponder is better than 1 more point of power on this. Probably close. Specifically in the situation where we're both top decking, otherwise, more generally speaking, the card is worth more. Alright, so I'm not actually going to get to do cool things with this Uro, unfortunately. Yep, there it goes. We'll hold back this Triad Arbor. I might be able to trade with Ragavan. Ponder away, I can't stop it. Yep. Alright, so I take just 3 here. Alright. Cool. I guess I play this so I can hardcast Force of Will. But I think we're done. Yeah, okay. I'm going to take 1 more draw step and concede. So I take 4 here, go to 13. I'll take 5 next turn, followed by lethal. I'm going to fetch the Triome out of the deck here. Alright, I mean, I can pretend. Let's junk Ragavan. I'm still taking 4 this turn, followed by lethal the following turn. I can't think of any actual outs that don't involve me having multiple cards. Again, I think we're just really bad versus Urza Saga. I don't have just a card that cleans house and just deals with everything Urza Saga is doing. Yep, I can go ahead and concede there. GG's. We are 0-3. I don't think this deck is particularly bad. I think it has an Urza Saga weakness, but we've just come out on the wrong side of most interactions. Okay, this is round 4. I have no lands. That's an easy mulligan. Hey, turn 3, just goldfish here. I'm throwing back one of these. I'm probably just gonna keep my land here. And just pitch the brainstorm. I don't really have anything that I'm going to be looking for. I'm gonna have oh, excuse me. I'm gonna have Forest, Swamp, Island as starting things, assuming that I don't need to do anything special. Lennon is a fan of the content. Yeah, playing the Ponder on turn 1 is going to be a little sketch here. Because it would require me to get basics when I otherwise could avoid getting basics. And it's really hard to look for something with the Ponder that matters. Like, I'd theoretically want something like a Force of Will. But I would need a blue card to pair with it, and Ponder can't do that by itself. I think I'm just going to call this good. Alright. So I'm going to fetch and see if we get stifled before anything else here. Not going to get stifled. Let's go Swamp, Forest, play Deuter, see if it works. I'm not going to start playing around days because I don't know what deck I'm actually playing against, and there's a very good chance that, like, in one way or another, this thing doesn't make it around the table. We have the turn 3 Goldfish if, like, everything is in a perfect world and our opponent isn't playing a lot of interaction. My opponent was thinking real hard about something. I don't know what that something is currently. I'm going to crash in for 2 as my starting point. And now, like, the question is, do I want to go for it? Underground Sea has me thinking something like Doomsday might be possible. This is something like Ant. This is just a kill here. Let's give it a go playing around at days. Alright. Do we have it? I discard 2. I want to copy it. Same targets. And now I'll discard 2 again. And then this is the point where if my opponent has something, they'll cast it after I've already discarded my cards. And they didn't. Nice. Okay, generally speaking, I'm going to board for combo here. And I might overboard, not knowing exactly what my opponent is doing. So, like, it would be pretty reasonable to do something like this and just board in these 7 cards. I think the Surgical will probably be stretching too much. I'm going to assume that these Fatal Pushes are bad and board those out. By boarding in other creatures, I probably don't need the Scavenging Ooze. Brazen Borrower and Scavenging Ooze are going to be kind of whatever in a lot of cases. Let's junk Brazen Borrower. Go down to 1 Uro. And go down 1 Baleful Strix. So this leaves me with Ooze, Apprentice, Leo, Uro, Endurance, Oof as potential targets. Yeah, this is fine. And this hand looks great. It's not a fast combo hand by any stretch of the imagination, but I have 2 different available counterspells and a threat. Maybe not the threat that I want in the matchup, but it is a threat. Okay. Okay, Tropical Island, Ponder. So we've seen Tropical Island, Underground Sea. Leaning a little bit more towards Storm here, although fetching Trop is a little interesting there. All right. We're just gonna chill. There is also a possibility that, like, my opponent just, yeah, this is looking like a Storm set of lands here, and I'm accordingly quite happy with that draw. Something like a Xantid Swarm actually would be kind of bad for me right now, because I'm pretty heavy on the counter magic side of things. A Burning Wish. I think I'm just gonna fluster this. I'll brainstorm first. Kind of like to find a hate bearer or something. Nope. Cards are pretty good. I think I'll just put back 1 land and a Ponder here. Fetch. Grab a Trop. And I'll take my 1-for-1 trade. Goodbye, Burning Wish. Okay. I think I am comfortable playing the Uro here. Grab another Trop. The life gain's relevant, the card draw is relevant, and I have multiple different pitch counters here. Triome in. Alright, I am pretty safe. If this is a 5-color version that has, like, some silences or something, maybe things get weird this turn. Your Brainstorm is fine, I will let you sculpt. But we'll probably kill our opponent in 3 turns with Uro, which is pretty dope. If I get to, like, untap with the Uro and then, like, keep hardcastable Force of Negation, that would be super cool. I'm going to go ahead and let that happen. That's fine. I'm good with this. That I am not good with. I think I will just Force of Negation that. Not take the 1 damage. Yep, and then I'll counter that. Good stuff. Alright, so now I'll have Uro to my opponent's empty board. And life is good. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. Want the 23, put a land into play. And I guess I will go ahead and Ponder. Just need to pick up something blue here. Guess this is fine. And we'll just look for any piece of counter magic or equivalent. I don't think I like this stuff. Yeah, that's much better. That's a Collector Roof next turn. I think we're 100% safe this turn. Ooh, an Echo could happen. There's an Echo in the sideboard. Yes, there is. Okay. So if my opponent can combo off with those random 7 cards, they will take this one. It will, however, be very difficult for them to win if I get to untap. I will be at 24 life with Flusterstorm available with Leovold on, and I can also just Mind Rot them. Yeah, it's pretty dope. Yeah. Alright, and it appears they're at least trying to do something. The Mox Opal isn't on yet, notably. Okay. Now it is. Wait, oh. Okay. Storm count is looking like a problem, though. Opponent has 2 cards remaining in hand, 6 total mana. An empty could happen. But I don't think my opponent is getting to Storm count 11 to actually kill me. Okay. That's fine. There's 3 mana remaining with a tutor available. So they could search for LED, double crack LED, and then their last card... Oh, okay. It has to be an Echo again. Okay. They've already made their land drop, which makes things hard here. Okay. Looks like it's my turn now. Okay. I think I can just Chain of Smog kill. I'm just going to attack with the Uro first. Yeah, I'll make an extra land drop here. Puts my opponent to 12. Go ahead and fetch. Let's just make sure my opponent doesn't have any trickery here. Yeah, they have nothing that they can do at instant speed here. Alright. I'll go green, black, play this. And then I've got the kill with Chain of Smog. GG's, opponent. And I've gotten the GG's in chat. Okay, we are on the scoreboard. We did not get swept. Alright, for the final round here, I have kept a pretty mediocre hand that hopefully Brainstorm can fix. It just has a little bit too much mana. Okay. Opponent's card quality here is absurd. I'm gonna have to take this Ragavan because I just don't have an initial answer to it and it will spiral out of control. But there's very clearly other problem cards there. Alright, because I know that I want to shuffle some stuff away, I'm just gonna Brainstorm main phase because there are some things I can hit that I would play this turn. Alright, Dryad Arbor goes back, and probably 1 land goes back here, just so I can fire off a Ponder off a Trop. And not that stuff. Okay, well, we found a Brainstorm anyway, which is not the end of the world. We can maybe shuffle back one of these lands. Murktide Regent just being bigger than Uro a good portion of the time is a little awkward. Okay, this is not a bad draw. That can become a Scavenging Ooze. That can be a major pain in my opponent's butt. But I think I just want to get a Leovold into play here. Do I want the Bayou? Sure. Alright. Black, green, blue. Try to slam Leovold. And I expect opponent will Brainstorm to try to find a Daze or Force of Will for this. Yep. And whatever was on top of the library was something they wanted, so I'm guessing this Leovold does not resolve. Guess confirmed. This is also 3 card types in the graveyard, 4 card types in the graveyard, meaning that this is instantly a 3/3. That's rough. Also rough is the fact that my opponent could have another threat this turn. Alright, there's a Ponder. This Dragon Rage Channeler could just, yeah. Yikes. So much for that Scavenging Ooze that would chip away at my opponent's graveyard, huh? Yeah, this is just happening this turn. Yeah, Murktide Regent is a problem. Okay. So my Uro is outclassed by this. My Scavenging Ooze is currently outclassed by this, but maybe could become big later. Is that my best bet? Is to start working towards the Scavenging Ooze? I think so. I think I just have to do something that has a semblance of hope of interacting with the Murktide Regent. and by interacting with it, I mean, like, getting bigger than it. Opponent keeps milling some things, maybe I can, like, make this ooze a respectable size and trade with Murktide. I'm worried that if I got a Witherbloom Apprentice, my opponent would just find an answer to it via expressive iteration, and then I wouldn't be in great shape. Snuff out. Opponent's deck is very low to the ground, in terms of, like, being able to get this thing into play. This is a non-black creature, notably. I take 10. I do not believe that I have any outs here. Yeah, I kill this. I'm dead to this. Okay. This may be sort of like the Urza Saga from the earlier rounds, where, like, we just don't have good, clean answers to it. I want Endurance, I want Baleful Strix, I want Assassin's Trophy. That's probably it. Spellpierce feels slow to me. I don't think I can play that. I probably should go down some number of Thought Seizes because they cost me life. I also think the Sylvan Library might be okay here. I think some of the games that I win, I'm going to win by comboing off pretty quickly. And Sylvan Library filtering those draws and helping me find the Chain of Smog to finish things off seems important. Maybe I need the Thought Seizes, though, because, like, I am so bad at answering a Resolved Murktide. Like, it's kill it with Baleful Strix or Assassin's Trophy it. I guess I can also bounce it, but, yeah, it doesn't feel great. Yeah, alright, maybe I can't do that. Maybe I have to keep in a few more answers to Murktide. This is a pretty medium-looking hand that I think I'm keeping. I think I'm going to use the Green Sun as mana acceleration rather than as a combo piece, despite having the Chain of Smog in play. I think I just need to get off the ground a little bit more to try to get ahead of my opponent. So my Scavenging Ooze, for example, becomes much better if I have the extra green mana, and it might help me keep a Murktide Regent out of play. Yep, fine. Well, got choices. I think I'm just going to flip this into play and see what my opponent does. If it lives, cool. I can try to combo off. If it doesn't, whatever. I've got an Ooze. This will be another creature in graveyard. I mean, that was a Force of Will and an Expressive Iteration. I'm happy enough with that. I'm going to attack with this Dryad Arbor. I don't think my opponent will block. Their Dragon Rage Channeler is way better than my Dryad Arbor. Plus, they want to leave themselves with opportunities to kill it via, like, Snuff Out and Lightning Bolt and whatnot. Alright. This will be 2 card types in graveyard. Oh, are you stuck on land? That's so good for me if you're stuck on land. I am just gonna take this out and prevent my opponent from using this to alter the top cards of their library. And then I can start doing cool things like Scavenging Ooze and Uro next turn. I will probably play Scavenging Ooze first. Is this worth 2 cards? I think this is worth 2 cards. Because this represents keeping my opponent's graveyard in check as well as a land. Okay. Oh, that's fine. Kind of sucks that they got bonus mana equity after using that daze. It is what it is. But that means that this isn't getting dazed then. Am I getting bolted? Feels like I'm getting bolted. Not getting bolted. Sure. Oh, okay. I see. They were thinking about brainstorming and then thought better of it, wanting to get 1 card deeper first. It's no fetch land. Okay, that's fine. But now they have more lands. Alright. We're gonna just jam into daze here. Oh, okay. Now, the Badlands that's in my opponent's deck does mean that they can't cast a Murktide if they have one immediately. Ponder. Okay. We doing this? I think we're doing this. This is a Mind Rot, so I think I just take this. If my opponent has a Murktide stuck in their hand, I do not want them to play that later. Nice. I respect my opponent copying it. I will not copy it. You know what? I will copy it just once, though. They have chosen not to copy it. So now we're in the top deck war. And I think my average top deck is better than my opponent's average top deck. I think I'm going to hold this in case I get a Ponder or Brainstorm rather than Fetch to Thin. Okay. Endurance. I don't mind Endurance at all. Take that as a draw. I think I'll play it in my opponent's upkeep. Fetch. Grab another Trop. I'll always be keeping Uro in mind. And I'm valuing trying to take out my opponent's graveyard more than I am playing around Daze here. Yep, that's fine. But I just really do not want my opponent to get a Murktide Region in play, because I will lose to it in literally 2 turns. Hold this for a Brainstorm. Okay. Yep, so this is exactly why I want to do Endurance. You're late. Not even going to cast that. We'll work towards some potential Brainstorm lines that can get rid of it here. Alright. I do not have many outs to this, and some of my outs can be played around by my opponent. Alright, I am just straight up dead to Murktide Region into attacks. Alright, overall thoughts on the deck list. Not competitive. So, I feel like, and it looks like I accidentally knocked a couple of sideboard cards into the main deck when shuffling something around at some point. I feel like this deck does not have answers to 2 very important cards in the format right now. I feel like this deck is bad against Urza Saga, and I feel like this deck is bad against Murktide Regent. And with both of those things true, I just don't think I could realistically recommend this deck list to someone. I do not think that this is a poorly built deck list. Like, I think that the idea that is here is good. However, I think that this is not a current... How do I say this? This exact version is not currently good against what is popular right now. I think if you were to muck around with this, maybe try some dress down sort of things, maybe find a few things that can better answer some Murktide Regents, like, you know, you could be a little bit more competitive. So for example, I was not overly keen on the Spell Pierces that exist in the main deck. Maybe those become some things that are better against your dress downs and equivalent. But overall, I think this was a league where, you know, our tech just felt a little bit outdated, even though the overall core was good. You know, we comboed off via Witherbloom Apprentice a decent number of times. We got Uro wins a decent number of times, but, you know, Uro's not great against Murktide at the end of the day. And Witherbloom Apprentice plus Chain of Smog is a bit of a weird combo in that if your opponent has interaction, they just wait for you to discard your own hand, and then they go ham. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, click the like button. If you're new here, consider subscribing for legacy, modern, and vintage content all the time. Have a great rest of the day, folks. If you want to try this one out or get your own deck on the channel, that information is in the video description. See ya!